Welcome back, 5011 fam.
Oh, it didn't work. I be forgetting, y'all. I
Yes.
got to press live. Listen,
I'm here for it. Like I said, we're figuring this thing out.
I'm figuring it out. We're coming
Yes.
together.
Yes, thank
It's so
you. Thank
long.
you. Oh my gosh, thank you so much for that warm welcome. It's DiDi, it's Jay, y'all. We're back with another episode of the 5011 Chronicles where we do what? We have conversations that spark conversations.
Period.
So we are so excited to get into this one. This is something that Dee and I have talked about, and I feel like I say this every episode. First of all, because we be talking.
We be talking. We
We be
be
talking.
keying.
Keying. Like, we'll key a whole hour and a half before we record an
Mm-hmm.
episode. Whole hour and a half. And a whole hour and a half after, period.
Period.
So, but this conversation is one that I think as we've been seeing time progress, and just seeing different things happen, it's one of those things that we've noticed and we've actually brought it up in previous episodes.
Mm-hmm.
So this episode is going to be titled something like Right Message, Wrong Messenger.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be along that whole idea of sometimes a message comes along and people have a hard time accepting what's being said because of the person who's saying it. And that's for a whole lot of different reasons. So we're going to be getting into it this episode of the 5011 Chronicles. Yes. So,
Y'all a little shitty.
yes, we got to start with get that little energy moving. First of all, I have to say before we get into this episode, I came decked down with my rings today.
Come
and
on,
I have
rings.
to tell y'all, no, don't you come on rings me, because I have to tell them why I did this. I don't know if y'all see the Wizard of Oz, Yellow Brick Road, sparkly nails that she's got on over there. But when we started talking, I saw these nails and I was like, hang on, I talk with my hands too. And I got to bring a little razzle dazzle because she did that.
Come on, razzle dazzle.
Got to match the energy. Y'all hear me jingle jangling? I said, I got to jingle jangle or something. Like, she over here got these sparkly nails, just giving the kids their lives.
I didn't even think you would be able to see it. I really didn't.
Oh yeah, I see it. Mm-hmm. Noted. But it's interesting because like we're gonna be having a whole conversation about messengers, and even when we get to our For the Culture later on this episode, we're gonna be talking about like a little bit of update, something that neither of us have, I guess, taken a really deep dive into as of right now. But we'll get into it. So y'all hang on, because it's gonna be a really interesting conversation that I definitely is gonna tie in the rest of this conversation. So we've talked about 2024 coming in swinging.
Yes.
Like the truth. And we've talked about 8 energy. We've talked about Age of Aquarius, move of the astrological age. Wrecking ball. Like,
wasn't
please pump the brake for just a second. We're not even
on the
in
wrecking
March.
ball with no petty. She wasn't playing with y'all.
So this episode will be coming out in March, but we literally have only been 2 months in the game. 2 months in the game, and literally every week there's been a revelation. Someone's had some truth to reveal.
Once we got 2 days into the year, it started.
It just started.
It just immediately was like, cut it.
It started, but I think it also brought to light something that Dee and I have talked about previously. So we've already talked about in our community in particular how we've had different people coming forward and talking about conditions, their working conditions, talking about different people in their industry. Mm-hmm. In particular, we're talking about entertainment here. As y'all know, we definitely like to talk about entertainment and the industry and how even in our community in particular, we hold certain people to a high regard. They have a lot of influence in our community. They're considered like, those pioneers, those anchors, if you will. So first we had Katt Williams go to Club Shay Shay, and
I was here for it.
Every bit of it. I mean, that conversation was hot. Like, you want to talk about spicy, so entertaining. He managed to, and I think we said this in a previous episode, he managed to turn an interview into a lovely 2.5 hour stand up. Like,
that's exactly what it was. He did
poignant to the all of his reads, so concise, shady, but truth telling. The delivery was on point. Every bit of it felt like the most amazing performance, but at the same time felt very genuine. It felt like he was just really being himself and saying what he had to say, and using his skill set at the same time to amplify the message. Right. And he received quite a bit of backlash. Then we had Monique. Monique comes to Club Shay Shay as well. Club Shay Shay is hot, and he's also received He's also received some backlash. Shannon Sharp has received quite a bit of backlash with his platform and people saying it's a place where people go and be messy. But Katt Williams brought up that he kind of anointed Club Shay Shay as a space that from now on people will come here and be forced to tell the truth.
He
be forced to tell the
literally,
truth.
he told him, like, listen, this is about to be it. We about to shake it up.
Come on, Shannon, safe space. Like literally got the kids in there, nothing. Got them a little. Well, Katt wasn't liquored up, but Monique was like at some point she was like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna keep on. This is good. She said one sip. That's all it takes. But Monique comes on and she shares her truth and she shares her experience and she tells her side of what the past decade, almost 2 decades, has looked like for her. And again, this is another person who's speaking their truth, speaking their experience, receives a lot of backlash. Receives a lot of backlash. And we're not touching the personal side of things. We're getting to her family and issues like that because not interested.
I haven't even tapped into that because I'm like, it ain't even my business. So
it's not even worth.
It's not my business. It's too far.
I saw a clip of something. I was like, I'm not subscribing to this. I don't want any parts of that. That can be dealt with.
That's too personal. I don't even know why we're doing this here.
Right. Like, so it's been interesting watching people respond to Shannon Sharp, to Monique, to Katt Williams about the things that they've said publicly. Just in this year. We're just talking about what's happened in this year so far.
Just this year.
Just now. But it's really interesting because the things that they're saying are not things that we haven't heard before. These are not unfamiliar topics. These are not things that have not been brought to the community before. And something that Dee and I have said quite a bit is that it's literally that people have an issue with the messenger. And it's funny because in Monique's interview that came up. There was actually quite a huge chunk of their conversation where they talk about people not being able to take it, in her words, from a fat black woman. A fat black cussing loud, proud, black woman. That was what she was saying. But also, like, when you look at what has been misconstrued about their images, both of them have remained relatively true to themselves from how they introduce themselves to the game. But because of how the industry plays its game, they both become people with really bad reputations publicly. And it's interesting to me because the things that they're saying, again, are not things that we haven't heard before.
Exactly. And my thing is, like, I think it's always funny when, like, whenever somebody doesn't wrap something up in a pretty bow or tiptoe or dance around things or say no comment, that, like, people have such an issue. But it's like, if the person who, just like with Katt Williams, with him responding to things that have been said before, not people called strays. There were strays.
There were definitely strays.
But the people who went and told their story that to him was an untrue story, he gets the right to tell his story on his turn too. That's what the interview is for. Like, I'm coming to interview about me. What you talking about? Talk about something else. Like, I'm talking about stuff that got to do with me. This is my interview. This is my chance to tell my story. That's why I'm here. And my thing is, like, when it doesn't, when it makes somebody look bad that other people care about or that people have put on a pedestal in their own lives, and it's like, why would you say this, or how dare you say this? But it's like, why are they exempt from accountability? You know what I'm saying? Like, why can't we hold them accountable just because you care about them? Like, do they care about you the same way? I don't know. Probably not. Hate to break it to you.
Probably not. Yeah, it's giving a strong no. A strong
and
no.
It's like, me, somebody who, like, be saying true stuff, but it be sometimes it shake the table a little. People don't be receiving the message the way I be intended. And you've seen on many occasions it go awry.
I have.
And we go awry with it.
And follow suit accordingly. Look, matching energy.
Time for growth.
Talked about come a long way.
And it's like, it's what we talked about though. Like, I had to learn that, like, it's nothing wrong with telling the truth, but sometimes, like, truth without any compassion or, like, thought of how it would make someone else feel. You can tell your truth, but there's still always a way to do things. Now, granted, you also have the right not to care and just say it how you want to say it.
Big facts.
And if you're like me, you just gonna say it how it needs to be said sometimes, and you take it how you need to take it. Like, you gotta disconnect your feelings and detach yourself, because sometimes you have to give it to people straight. Like, you can't be tiptoeing and doing all of that, especially when you're telling your story of you've been wronged by somebody. I'm not thinking about how you feel. I'm gonna say what happened. You stole my rose, Oprah. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it.
Come on now.
Allegedly.
Alleged. I mean, is it alleged though? I mean,
it all lined up for me.
For me too. The recepts were there.
And to me, when she broke it down, it's like, for me, when somebody's done wrong, you can't tell them how to respond or react. You know what I'm saying? And if it's not something that will cause people bodily harm or get anybody in jail or nothing like that, if it's just, I'm speaking my truth, you shouldn't silence people. You know what I'm saying? Because if it's the truth, it's the truth. And
the truth is going to be the truth regardless.
Ain't nothing you can do about it. I don't care how much you care about Junebug. If I said he did it, he did it.
He did. I think that's one of the things that I really liked about Monique's interview is I know she gets a lot of crap publicly, from the bonnets in public to all of the different things that have come up over the years. She gets quite a bit of crap. But I also watched her, she had a special come out on Netflix recently in maybe the past year or two. My Name is Monique. And, like I said, I've been being very intentional with Black History Month. So I've been watching something different, very blackety black every day. And I watched Monique's special. And first of all, it was brilliant. Brilliant. She always does a wonderful job when it comes to her stand-up. But what I like is how she puts her truth into everything that she does. Like, there is no running from the truth. And some people I think that's also an aspect of the conversation, is that, there's that saying, ignorance is bliss. Sometimes people are really happy just believing everybody is who they say they are, and that everything is just perfectly hunky-dory, and, that there are no gatekeepers, and everybody is just where they are because they work hard, and that, they're good people. They worked for it, and they're good people. I don't think there's a single billionaire on this planet who has gotten there by just being a good person. Not a single one. And there's a lot of people I'm grouping in that. Do with that information what you may. That's between you and your God.
Said what we said.
Said what was said, because I don't think you get to a position like that in life without having to either step on some necks, break some backs, hurt some feelings, and do some things that might be a little shysty, a little shady along the way. That's your business. That's your business. But I do think that the reality of it is that this is a human talking about other humans in both cases, in all of the cases, because there's other people I think about with this. Someone that I have a hard time receiving what she says because of how ruthless she can be sometimes with her honesty and how shady that mouth is. And you know exactly what I'm talking about because you are a fan of said woman. But Miss Azalea Banks, Miss sister, cousin, friend Azalea Banks, neighbor from down the street, who we be praying for, stays on the prayer list. Azalea Banks is one of those people who is brilliantly talented, who has
she's a smart girl,
very intelligent. But again, this is one of those messenger things, because I don't think that everything that she says ruthlessly and recklessly is inaccurate. I do think she spits quite a bit of truth. It's delivery.
But do you need to say it, for one?
Do you need to say it like that? And she's one of those people that I'm like,
just be left unsaid.
Left unsaid. And I think that's the part, like, even with, because this is giving one of those instances that's different than, like, for me, a Katt Williams or Monique, where not only are you coming with your credible receipts, and you're sharing your experience, but it's not really done in a malicious way. I think sometimes Miss Sister Cousin Banks becoming, hoping people believe from the daggers that she says, because she comes ruthless sometimes, like a whole next level.
Her, man, she be saying the stuff that, like, you think but you don't.
You know what I'm saying? Anybody out loud.
You rant in your room.
Yeah.
You rant to your homie, your friend, but you don't, like, post it on social media.
Yeah, this is the stuff you don't tweet, but that
You
you
might
think.
scroll past something and be thinking in your head like, "Ooh, cause da 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 da," and da da da, but you don't post it. You know, sometimes you don't verbalize these
Mm-hmm.
things. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's okay to not say everything.
To not say
Like, it's
everything
okay.
that comes to your mind or everything that you know.
And I had to learn
Um,
this the long way. I had to learn this because I used to be the type of person where I felt like if it's true, it's true. Like,
mm-hmm.
what you want me to do? Like, it's true. But I had to learn of like just because it's true doesn't mean one you have to say it, and then there's
Mm-hmm.
always a way to say things. That's why when people be thinking I'm mean, and I'll be like, "Child, y'all don't even know I be
Don't.
scaring you,
It could be so
saying
much
what I
worse.
be
Mm-hmm.
thinking." Because if I did, bless us all, I'd be a
It's a,
slave
it's,
next.
yeah. No
I'm
comment.
joking.
No comment. No comment.
She be saying I don't agree.
Now,
I ain't
you
gonna lie.
definitely
Sis
don't
be
be going
jumping
that
out the
far.
window.
I
Sis
think
be jumping out the window sometimes.
it makes me think because recently she was making some claims about, and I don't remember the specifics because I do my best not to get caught up in the mess. Like I
Yeah.
don't really like the mess as much anymore. Maybe when I was like 21, like, but not, I don't really like the mess like that. I know that there was some mess going on involving Beyonce, and Azalea had said some things recently, and I think people had a hard time receiving it again because of her delivery. But the parallel is I look at somebody like Tiffany Red, who said some very similar things and shared her experience about, Beyonce and writers and stealing people's music and allegedly doing all these things, which this is not the first time this has come up. Sis is always in the middle of a lawsuit over some lyrics and over some music. Which is, she's not the only one. I mean, like MJ had this experience, Frank Ocean. There have been a lot of people
A lot
who,
of artists go
a
through it.
lot of artists. I mean, infamously, Robin Thicke and Pharrell with Marvin Gaye. So there's been quite a few cases like this. Because even Mary J. Blige got Frank Ocean for what song was that? Oh my gosh, what song was that? It's a really good one off of Channel Orange, and he does this real love moment that he says, and it's just too close.
Oh.
It's too close to what she says. Oh my gosh, what song is that? It's not the one with. It's not. Maybe it's the one with the Earl Sweatshirt. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter because it's not a Frank Ocean episode. Maybe we'll do an episode about people who wait 20 years to make an album. We could talk about him, Maxwell, Sade. We could put all the
Rihanna.
people Rihanna, people who go decades without making music and are somehow still relevant. No disrespect to Sade because she's absolutely always going to be relevant. And
I love me
Maxwell.
some Sade.
But we're gonna pray about
They be
Frank, and
touring,
they do. They just don't be out like they come out of their little caves and secret little places just to tour, and then they
Right.
zip themselves right back up in that cocoon.
As they should.
I once heard someone say they're not 100% sure Sade's a real person, and I was like, you know what? I'm not either.
She's a star seed.
She comes in, sprinkles a little magic,
Yes,
gone.
and gone.
But it's interesting because even with like the things that Katt Williams has said, it makes me think about previously we've heard other people, and even some of their counterparts. Because I think about with the Monique situation, we brought up Taraji, we brought up Viola Davis. Everyone was super empathetic when Taraji said it. Super. Oh my gosh, what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do about the Black women not getting paid in Hollywood? What are we gonna do about it? And it's interesting.
The politics of it. It's the likability politics.
It's the likability politics.
Her. So we're gonna.
I also think there's a component of
you know,
colorism in it. I think that there's a component of colorism and featureism, and let me explain why. Because Viola Davis brought this up, I want to say before Monique. I'm not 100% sure on that, but it might have been around the same time. And the conversation that came around Viola Davis, she was it came up a little bit publicly, but a lot of people didn't talk about it. And it's a very famous speech of hers that has circulated more in the past couple years. But she was talking about how people are always coming up to her and saying, well, you're the Black Meryl Streep. You're the Black Meryl Streep. And she goes, no, I'm not the Black Meryl Streep. I'm Viola Davis. Like, if I'm the Black Meryl Streep, pay me like I'm the Black Meryl Streep. She's like, y'all don't pay me like y'all pay.
Where is my money?
Where are the coins? And it's so interesting because these conversations, these people pulling the wool over eyes. I think about Jim Carrey when Jim Carrey came out and said all that he said publicly. And of course, he's not a man of color, but he's definitely, I'd say, an ally, from what perceived ally. alleged ally. We don't know that man, but he's
Right.
another one. He's another one who publicly came forward and said some things, and part of the community was very much part of the world community was very much, what's wrong with Jim Carrey? He done lost his mind. While the rest of the world was like, hang on, he
Mm-hmm.
might be spitting some real truth. But it's
Dave
interesting because
Chappelle.
Dave Chappelle. It's interesting the people that, because I even think about how Dave Chappelle, as controversial as he can be, he remains relatively unscathed.
Mm-hmm.
He's still able to do his thing, speak his piece, and even he had some negative things to say about Katt Williams coming out and saying what he said. I don't know. It's just, again, like, is it? Because I once heard somebody say, when they talk about, and this was in more of the sense of spiritual readings, but they're saying sometimes, and they were also talking about church,
Mm-hmm.
sermons and things that people say in church. They say sometimes you listen to what's said and you take what's for you and you leave what's not.
Yeah.
Is that not the same
Chew the
thing that
meat,
can
spit out
apply
the
to a wrong,
bones.
is that not the same thing that can apply to like a right message, wrong messenger kind of thing? Because for people who have such an issue with the messenger, if you were to listen to what was said objectively without your opinion of the person saying it,
What would you think?
what would you think? Can you connect the dots and use receipts and use reasoning to come up with your own conclusion based off of what they presented? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the part that I have a hard time with, seeing how much negative publicity and how many negative remarks people have to say about what different individuals have said. Because it's like, well, the math is mathing for me. I
Yeah.
carried the one. I did my long division. I figured out what to do with my remainder. And it looks like I'm not detecting any lies because the receipts are coming up.
Right.
I scrolled and there are the receipts.
And
So
that's
I
my
don't
thing.
know.
Like, if you got receipts and you telling the truth, I mean, if it's true, it's true.
If it's true, it's true.
And then I can do for you if it's true.
I mean,
And I
like,
think too, a part of it, at least in the Black community, and I'm going to speak on the Black community because I'm Black and I'm in the community.
period.
So I don't know what the other races be doing, so don't give me no dissertations and paragraphs about it because I'm not in it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So I think a part of the problem too is like, there was a point in time where like, and it kind of still is now, where like, as Black people, you have to like represent yourself the best way possible, because it's like one
Mm-hmm.
person would be the representation for the whole, for them to
The
be
whole,
like,
yeah.
this is what they do, this is how they act, this is da da da. And so it's been something that's been like ingratiated since hundreds of years ago, where they had everything was so like, they had to be so intentional and strict about how they presented themselves to the world. They had to be hyper aware of
Mm-hmm.
how they presented themselves to the world. It's been ingratiated in our culture to just,
Yes.
and it's like now there's like this protectiveness of like, you don't want to say or do anything wrong. And you're even, I'm sure a lot of us will talk to some kids like in front of the other people, like, don't be, when we get around these, don't act like you don't know how to act. You know what I'm saying? And so it's like, or even in families where it's like people ignore certain things, and you let the uncle come around, and people just be like, oh, just don't be around this person, or just don't, you know what I'm saying? Instead of telling this person, you don't need to be here. It's like, I feel like we have this innate thing of like protecting people and not want to say anything bad about our own people, because we feel like, oh, if we say something bad, like everybody's gonna think we're just these. And it's like,
I'm
no, like,
anti-Black.
yeah. And it's like, my thing is like, there's never a moment where, like, well, I'm not gonna say there's never a moment, but it's like when somebody's done wrong, they should always be allowed to speak their truth.
Mm-hmm.
You don't get to do me wrong and then tell me that I have to protect you. Are you kidding me? Are you
Make it
kidding
make
me?
sense. Make it make sense.
And it's like, you even see it like with the whole Megan thing and people having an issue with her, but it's like, in the beginning, she didn't say anything. She isn't the one that even took him to court. The state did.
Mm-hmm.
She never, you know what I'm saying? And at first she didn't say anything until
and then she lied.
stories. Then she lied.
Mm-hmm.
She lied.
To protect him.
Exactly. But it's like, even then, it's like, I would not have been, that would not be my first reaction of like, oh, let me protect him because he's a Black man, even though he just did something to me.
Wrong to me. Mm-hmm.
Let me tell y'all. I'm gonna tell y'all right now. I don't care what color you are. Don't try it. Don't try it
Heard.
over here. Because color don't matter over here. You
Mm-hmm.
can go no matter what color you are. I will call
Mm-hmm.
the people. What are you talking about? I'm telling you did
Yeah.
this to me.
Yeah.
Period. And it's like it's dangerous to even set a precedent like that of not speaking on things. You know what I'm saying? Because that will extend to other things where that extends throughout your life of where you're done wrong and you don't say anything and you don't do anything and then you become a doormat for people.
You know what's crazy is I believe that exactly what you're describing is something that we're already facing as a community generationally. Because like historically, you know, coming off of Black History Month, this is Black History year for me. It's Black History life. I told somebody the other day, I'm Black History out. Like
You
this is it.
blackity
This is
black
all the way from
all
now on. It's
2024.
Black History Month. But it's interesting because historically, Black women have always felt the need to protect Black men. And if you go back and look at the days of slavery, even if no matter what was done, it was all about protecting each other. And we don't live in a community where it's that type of that exact type of violence, but it's the fact that even when you're wronged, I think about, and this is a popular example where we can look at like the marriage between Ike and Tina. There were aspects of that marriage where because of who they were,
Yeah.
she felt the need to protect the image and protect the brand and protect the man who was creating the harm. It's been throughout our entire genealogy. Tiana. Come on now.
Not too much.
And that's not
I
even,
would never let
look,
that go.
and that's not even a situation of, any violence towards it's literally dealing with emotional, and I go so far as say it's borderline emotional abuse when you're dealing with a partner who is envious of you, and there's nothing you can do to make it better.
What she's put in whatever the documents were or whatever, like the claims, it's like you're protecting somebody who at the end of the day has done you wrong. And that person has said nothing to protect you. And it's so crazy. You even see it with, like, in general with the women, with like Bill and Hillary. Like she had to be present there and stand by him to show that, like, I support him. The Instagram guy that used to be down to the car giving the girls advice, and really he was out here thotting and bopping. Brought his wife on it.
Jackson.
Yes, had his wife down there with the head scarf on down to the thing, looking crazy. Embarrassed
looking
that
crazy.
lady. When I tell you he would have been sitting there by himself making that video, I didn't sleep with nobody.
This is your mess to fix.
Supporting me?
This is your mess to clean up. Yeah. It's crazy. It's crazy because I think these are the types of, like, where we are literally, and I don't know, those of you who are spiritual, who are tapped in, you've got to feel it, because we are on the cusp of such a shift where that type of BS is just not going to, it's not going to be able to go along with us. Like, we've got generational curses breaking, generational curses breaking, truths being unfolded and unveiled and uncovered, discovery, exploration. I mean, like, the veil is so thin and is literally about to be ripped open. There's not about to be a veil there anymore.
It's like when Monica Rambeau was touching the thing. And
come on now, because I finally watched it. Right? I loved it. I thought it was good.
Good. The fight scenes, immaculately done. Immaculate. I love the transitions of those fights. That made the movie for me.
Yeah, the fight scenes were wonderful, especially when they had figured out their whole little thing. And how they were going to work, how they were going to jail.
Yep.
Oh, now that was good. That was good. And how it all just, like, they tied it all with a nice little bow. They set us up for the future. Yes. It's wonderful. Super quick, we have to have a little Marvel side chat, because please tell me you've seen. We have to have another one. We have to continue this just for a second. Yes. Just follow me. Have you seen the trailer for Deadpool and Wolverine yet?
Yes, I have, because Deadpool is like one of my faves.
I know Deadpool is absolutely one of your faves, up there with
This
Groot.
is gonna be so good.
It's gonna be so good.
The story,
so good.
The story is so. It's gonna be so good.
It's gonna be a perfect kind of story for Deadpool. I just had to say that, and the fact that they released who the Fantastic Four cast is finally.
Did they? I didn't see that.
They did. I'm gonna have to send it to you. They did it for like a little Valentine's post. It was cute. But I'm
Oh,
really excited to see Pedro Pascal as Mr. Fantastic. I think that's gonna be so
because the last
freaking
Fantastic Four
good.
was basura.
They had and I feel like they had a decent cast. It just was not, because I feel like
Done
John Krasinski
well at
was
all.
good, but it's giving no
It was
go.
not done well.
So hopefully this will fix, because they're talking about really trying to get the story right, trying to set this in the 60s, and I'm excited. I'm excited to see what's going to happen, because they've got a lot of little 60s Easter eggs in the little thing that they dropped. But okay, done with the Marvel thing. Okay, we're back. We're back. It's it gets me because I had a little brain fart right there. I don't know if y'all could tell. I was having a whole
We
little
seen
moment. I was having a whole little moment with myself.
we clip you down.
But I do think, and back to the point I was making previously, I do think that even with the same conversation being said, because we've talked about it before, but that same conversation that Monique, Taraji, Viola, it's just so interesting the amount of reception Taraji got. And I'm not gonna say it's interesting, it was expected for me.
Yeah.
Once seeing it all play out, it was expected. But this is my question, because we've got these different messages coming out from these different messengers, all of this being unveiled. When are we gonna do something about any of it? Because how much are we gonna talk this into the ground? How much are we just gonna it into the ground?
And it's
When
a
are we gonna do it?
whole lot of smoke for there to be just no fires.
None.
Like, okay.
None. Like, none. It's giving fog machine, honestly. That's what it's giving. It's giving fog machine. It's giving artificial. And I mean, I know that there's an aspect, and those who, again, we've talked about people being spiritually tapped in and understanding that there is an aspect of what happens publicly in front of our faces that is just theater. That's not real. They just be putting on distractions and shows and just trying to whatever. But what I think we're looking at with some of this truth coming out is we've also got people who have been able to hide and do things under the cover of darkness and behind closed doors and under the table.
Mm-hmm.
And those kinds of energies and entities need to be revealed. They need to be revealed to move forward. Because
absolutely. Clean them out. Clean house.
You can't be bringing in new energy. Because think about it. We have so many of our legends who are either passing or retiring or moving on to different things. And you can't be bringing in new energy into this industry. Goodness, I don't know what was going on right there. You can't be bringing new energy into this industry and still having some of that old mess that has just been sitting and festering. And I didn't think about that
though. It is a generational shift. I didn't think about that.
It's a generational shift.
Like a generation is coming to
literally. We have been seeing it over the past 5 years. How many of our legends have been passing or retiring? People who have just been like, okay, this is it. This is my last public appearance. Because I think about when Tina performed last, and she was just like, this is it. I'm done. And I'm no longer going to be part of the public. And that was it. Until she passed. I don't either. She had earned it. I mean, you literally put rock music to the next level. You changed the game, sis. You changed the game. You changed what it means to be a dynamic individual performer on a stage by yourself. Like, you changed it. You did. And you earned it. You earned a rocking chair moment, a cozy, like, muumuu, or like one of those little 2-piece sets that are like, where they wear velour. I would have loved to see Tina Turner in a velour, just chilling at home with a cup of tea. Nam Myoho Renge-kyo. All about the lotus blossom. Like, I'm so serious. Because she earned it. But like, we really are at this, what we're experiencing right now, energetically, literally, temporally, as far as it comes to time, is a transition period. So because there's this mass transition happening in our industries, in our understanding, in our levels of knowledge, in our levels of consciousness.
Even the numbers, 8 is at the end. It ain't the end, but it's coming to an end.
It's coming to an end. So it's like we're literally getting ready to shift into a whole new space. You got to get some of this old mess out of the way. And I think that's why it's so important that this is a time for truth telling. This is a time for people to just be talking about, this person has been a problem. This person's not who they say they are. This person's fraudulent.
You know what I just thought about the problem is?
What's that?
People don't even tell themselves the truth. Think about how many
Nobody
people
likes the
go
truth.
throughout their days lying to themselves,
Nobody likes the truth.
convincing themselves of other things, being delusional, talking themselves out of the truth, just blatantly ignoring the truth. And so it's like, if you can't even be real with yourself, how are you going to be real with everybody else?
How are you going to be able to accept anybody else's truth?
You won't.
You can't.
The truth will always shake you up because you be running from it.
Triggered by the truth. Triggered by the truth, honey.
Literally. That could be a whole show they could create. Triggered by the truth.
What?
And just be dropping bombs on people.
That's where we are. I mean, but literally, if you think about it, that's where we are right now. Because there's
2024 is triggered by the truth.
2024.
The truth don't
truth
shake
triggers
me,
all like, come on now. I embrace the truth. Go tell me about myself.
I be giving too much of it to be shaken by. How dare I?
You know, no lies detected. No lies detected. No lies detected. No lies detected. Because you are a truth bomb all by yourself. Mm-hmm. And I'm here for it.
And I respect it. And that's the thing I think too is like when it's true, it just roll off your tongue. It don't be no harm to it. It's just the truth.
It's just the truth.
So it just rolled off my tongue.
You know, I was thinking about something recently because we've talked about some people who have had messages. I don't know what was going on. I think I was trying to say messenger. And it's like, oh my gosh, we were having a whole day today. So, wow. So we've talked about some messengers who people had a hard time accepting the truth from them. But it also makes me think about, and this is a conversation that is going to kind of like start our For the Culture, but this is going to be an extended conversation because I think this is a topic that really deserves to be unpacked some more. And it's a perfect little pivot. So we've talked about it. We've talked about these truth tellers, but we've also in previous episodes talked about the power of what we say, like the magic of speech, the spelling, the literal power of the tongue. And recently, and I haven't watched the interview, and Dee and I talked about it. She hasn't watched it either, and I might watch it. I might watch it at some point, and I might not. So I'm not going to say I'm going to watch it because I know that there's a possibility I might not.
You might not.
But Black China recently went to check in with Wendy Williams. I was very kind of confused by that at first because I'm like, that's a little random.
So random.
Okay, it's a little random. But from what I understand, it was a conversation that was heartfelt. She was talking somewhat about, Wendy was talking about this upcoming documentary she's got going on, and she was sharing information about what she's been facing medically, which she's got a frontal temporal, what's the word? I did that. Dementia. I keep doing this with dementia. I don't know why that is. That's not me being funny. She's got aphasia. That's why I'm like, I did this earlier off camera. I couldn't get the word dementia. I can get aphasia, no problem.
That's so funny.
But Graves' disease, and we know she's a survivor of substance abuse disorder, as they call it now. We used to call it drug addiction back in the day, but they call it substance abuse disorder now, because it is considered a mental disorder, just like alcoholism. So they're both considered mental disorders. And I find it really interesting because a lot of people have been talking about Wendy, and I'm not going to say that I agree entirely with what is being said, but this is what's being said. They're saying that between all of the ailments that she's facing and even some of I think she's in the middle of a conservatorship right now as well with some of her managers and her agents. People are saying this is Wendy's karma for years, decades of the things that she's said and how she's publicly acted towards others, and even some of the hate and the disarray and division that she's caused with her words and her platform. So I don't know, like, Dee, what do you think about that? Like, I think it's interesting.
I think it's layers to that.
Yes, absolutely.
I think that, for one, I think that it's easy for people to start preaching and becoming like professional theorists on karma whenever it's a negative, bad thing. If something positive had happened to her, nobody would have brought that word up.
At all.
literally. However, there could be, we don't know, some truth to it. But I think what people don't understand about karma is like, karma isn't like, oh, I'm gonna get you back.
I'm gonna
It's
get you,
like,
get you, get you. Yeah,
I'm
not at
going
all.
to show you how you make people feel, show you how you show up in the world towards someone that you did wrong. When you did this to this person, or when you made this person feel like this, or if you treat people this way, I will teach you a lesson on that, whatever that may be.
Mm-hmm.
It ain't to say that you're going to have 16 diseases in order. It's not to say that, but you're going to go through something that will show you and teach you a lesson. It's a learning thing.
If I may interject, for our scientific minded people who are like, I don't believe in karma. Well, think about it this way. One of Newton's laws is for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. So when something is done, there's going to be an effect at some point that matches the energy of the action that was done in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
So it's almost like karma is not, I'm going to get you. It's more of like a reflection, almost like a mirror of what you've put out. What you sowed, you will reap. If you sow good, you will reap good. If you sow evil, you will reap evil. If you sow what's in between, that's what you're going to reap, is what's in between.
Exactly.
So I think that we are seeing an aspect of that. But okay, as you were saying.
And I think all true. Agree with all those things. I think another layer to it is like, what people have to remember is like, even if you take it in like a biblical sense, like the first thing that existed was the word. Like that's what the Bible say. Like first there was the word. Mm-hmm. That was it. There was nothing else but the word. And it's to me a testament to how powerful your words are and what you speak is. Because at the end of the day, it's like you said, at the end of the day, what you reap, you do so. How you speak of people, you will be spoken on the same way. It will happen to you as well. How she, it felt like everybody needed to know what was going on and the truth. We will also know her truth. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And it's not, I don't like when people kind of use it as a gotcha moment, because to me this doesn't really feel like a gotcha moment at all. It's more of a like learn and do better moment. You know what I'm saying? Everybody needs to learn from it, because at the end of the day, while she may have been on her platform doing what she was doing, a lot of y'all do it, not y'all but y'all. Y'all know what I mean. A lot of y'all do it in your everyday lives. Yeah. Where you sit and you gossip and you talk about people, or you speak ill of other people, or you speak down on other people, or look down on other people. Some of y'all do it in your thoughts, where you look down and talk down on other people and judge other people. Nobody's exempt from that. She just made a platform out of it and got rich for doing it. And got rich off of it. You know what I'm saying? Like, and now she can't even access those riches. Can't even access them. And I think, everybody is going to have their day where your chickens come to hatch. You know what I'm saying? Everybody has that day. Everybody goes through an experience, whether it be a big thing or a small thing, depending on how big or small whatever you did was. You know what I'm saying? So I think, if anything, people should take stuff like that as a moment of self-reflection. You know what I'm saying? Because you don't want to be in that situation. You talk about somebody else's karma, check on your own. Come on now. I heard something very interesting recently, and it's not so much a conspiracy theory as it is just something to think about. What I heard this person say was, they said something to the effect of, every person around you, everything that you experience in your life is a reflection of what's going on within you, kind of internally, like your subconscious mind. And also it makes me think of this speech that Iyanla Vanzant, because y'all know I love me some Kiki Iyanla Vanzant. Y'all know we love Kiki over here. But in one of her speeches, it was a speech called It's All About You. And she talks about how everything that happens in your life, there's some reflection about you in that, whether it's mess that you see in somebody else's life and you're like, oh, they need to do this, or they need to do that. Why are you so familiar with what they need to do to live their life? There's reflection of you in that. And at the time of the recording, I think 9/11 had just occurred. And she said something to the effect of like, the Twin Towers were known for
they were trade centers. They were, trading. It was about the trading and how the U.S. traded with the rest of the world. But she even used that as an analogy, like, how are you trading in your world? Like, what are your world trade centers look like? What is the state of your, existence when it comes to trading? How are you showing up in the global, landscape? And it was interesting because for me, even looking at like a Wendy Williams and what she's facing, and it is a reflection to me on how am I showing up to those around me, even in my moments of
Exactly.
frustration or anger or upset or whatever with others. Am I stooping to a place where I could manifest or bring about or mirror or reflect some type of, do I want to look at myself in that light? Like, am I actually showing up? How do I look to others when I come in my not best self, my not best energy? So it's
And it'd be
definitely a
funny too,
reflection for
because the
me.
people that be writing the dissertations, it's like, are you any better than her with your dissertation that you write is shading her?
Boom.
You're
Boom.
doing
Exactly.
in
The
this
exact
moment,
same
you're
thing.
doing to her what she was doing to other people. So who are you to be any better than that?
Mm-hmm.
You know what
Big
I'm
facts.
saying? Like, I think people will take themselves out of things. And I think if you put yourself, even when you see people telling their story and telling their truth, put yourself there and ask yourself, if somebody did something to me and people told me not to say nothing, how would I feel? You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, for me, I don't care how the people in your family could feel like you're Barack Obama. If you do me wrong, I'm going to say something.
Mm-hmm.
And if your family try to tell me that you're this pillar in the community, I'm going to read them too, because they created you. I'm
These are
reading
facts.
everybody.
She is.
And I feel
She's
like
doing it.
everybody needs to be like that, because if people start back holding people accountable and telling the truth, people wouldn't do some of the stuff that they do. People feel comfortable because they feel like nobody's going to say anything.
I
It's
think our
kind of like
communities
that.
have gotten lazy.
Yeah, it's kind of like the one of the lawsuits against DiDi. The woman basically was petitioning to not. They were trying to get the court to put her name out there, and she was saying, like, basically they only want to put my name out there so the people come for me. And the little slow birds in the comments is like, no, he deserves to know the name. Da 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 da. And it's like, don't nobody need to know her name but the people in the courtroom.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we don't need to know that information. That's
At
going to do
all.
nothing for us. What are
Nothing.
we going to do? What are we going to do? But people ain't going to do nothing but harass the lady because apparently she can't
Exactly.
tell her truth, if that's her truth, allegedly. I don't know. Allegedly.
There's so much more to be discovered. I think even reflecting on that is in the past, our communities were known for a form of community justice where when wrong was done in the community dealt with it, and the wrong was dealt with and it was done. There was no more that needed to be done about it because the community dealt
Exactly.
with it. If it was a predator, if it was someone being abusive in a relationship, whatever it was, if it needed to be addressed, the community addressed it and it was dealt with.
Nipped it and it was done.
And even if we go back and that's a whole nother look. I was about to start a whole conversation for a whole nother day, but y'all mark our words. We're going to have to talk about the history of policing and where policing came from and how we got to where we are now, because it's really interesting. If you don't know the birth of the current police, we'll get into that one day. But look, I had to pull myself back because I pulled that soapbox out. I was about to step right on it. We have to reel it right on back in. But I do think that to a certain degree, our communities have gotten lazy, and I can't blame it entirely on COVID-19, but COVID-19 definitely played a role in the past decade. But it used to be a place where people felt comfortable enough in the community to be able to call out wrong and address things. Everybody is so sensitive these days. Everybody is so defensive these days. You don't want to say nothing to nobody about how bad their little kids be running around or about how nasty their uncle or their dad is, because everybody they're so ride or die for theirs. And like you said, even if, they're a pillar in our community, that still doesn't make them not a garbage person. That doesn't make them not to have made garbage decisions and created bad environments for others. So even looking at Wendy Williams and the current state of her life, I would never want to wish that type of ill on anyone. I can't imagine what life looks like and that experience is for her, because it's got to be difficult. It's got to be difficult knowing where you came from to where you are now, and even like feeling like you're at the end of your life. Like health wise, she's just really not in a good place or a good
Mm-hmm.
space. She doesn't look good, and it doesn't seem to be getting better. Seems to
Yeah.
be getting worse rapidly. And I hate that for her.
Yeah.
I think, like Dee said, though, it is a moment for all of us to reflect on how we show up and how, because again, and connecting it back to our previous messengers. Yeah, see, I got it right that time. Our previous messengers in this episode, like the Moniques and the Cat Williams and even the Azalea Banks, um, and even the Kanye Wests, because Kanye's he's a perfect example of someone who sometimes the things that he says are reckless and wild,
But
but
he
other
be telling
times
the
he'll be
truth.
telling the
Like it
absolute
be
truth,
like, but I feel you though.
like
It
message
wasn't
and
the right
messenger.
time for him to say Bush don't like black people, but what was
What at
happening
all?
in New Orleans was happening. It was happening.
And I think it's just again interesting because when you devote your energy, this is what it's just a reflection that I'm having in this moment, or a revelation, if you will. When you devote your energy to truth telling and to walking in your path, it looks a little bit different, because if you look at the life of someone like Cat Williams, who even with the mess and all of the
Mm-hmm.
things that have been said about
Mm-hmm.
him over the past few decades or whatever, he's
Still
thriving.
blessed.
He is
Blessed
thriving. He is not at all struggling. If you look
at
at
all.
Monique, who has had her struggles and has been vocal about them, she is
Mm-hmm.
still, look at her. She looks phenomenal, has barely aged. Like, and the gray that
Yeah.
she keeps in her hair, I love it so much because it just looks so good on her. I never thought that I would see a Monique with this gray streak that is just so beautiful and classy, and like, but to see who they have evolved into from when we saw them at the beginning of their career, even with
Mm-hmm.
the mess, it's again like you look at your messengers and what they're saying, and if you can sometimes remove the subjectivity that you have about
Yeah.
them and your opinion of them as people, and listen to what they say and receive what you can and leave what's not for you,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I'm
And
just
I did
saying.
want to say, I think there's another layer too, where like people feel like there's like a time limit on the truth, or there's like you can only tell the truth up
This
until
many
this
times.
point, and then it's
Yeah.
like, why are we still
Why are we
talking
still
about it?
talking
Why are
about
you
this?
bringing
Yeah.
it up now? What, this was 6 years ago. Why are
Mm-hmm.
we? And I just want to say, and it came up too. I thought about it when I don't remember the lady's name who posed the question about Chris Brown, as far as like when will,
He asked.
as a oh, he asked.
He said it. Yeah. I was actually about to bring that
Okay.
up when you said that. He said it. He asked.
When
Yeah.
he asks like when is it cool? And I think what people have to understand too is like, just like how we were talking about reaping and sowing and consequences and actions and things like that, the reality of the situation is like, when you do things, sometimes these are things that you will just have to live with.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the day, there are going to be people who may not be comfortable with what the truth is.
Mm-hmm.
And there will always be people who are not comfortable with certain things that you've done if they
Mm-hmm.
are true. And that's something that you will just have to live with. That's why you have to be mindful of what you do.
Of what you
That's why
do.
you have to be mindful of your
Yes.
actions and the things that you
Yes.
say, and
Yes.
because it will follow you.
That was
There's
so beautifully
no
put.
time frame on the
Oh
truth.
my goodness. 10 out of 10 would recommend. That was so beautiful. For those who don't know what Dee is so eloquently speaking about, Chris Brown was recently denied an opportunity to be involved, I think, with the All-Stars game, the
Mm-hmm.
All-Star celebrity game, and he got upset about it, and he goes online and he posts, he's like, look, like, I know that I've committed atrocities. I know that what I've done in my past is wrong, and I'm accepting that, and I've claimed that. But he essentially asked, at what point can I be forgiven for something that I did when I was a young man versus the man that I am now? And I think that you put that so beautifully, because yes, you know, he's like, Rihanna has moved on. She's married. She's got a whole life. We don't like, it's nothing like that. He's like, when will I be forgiven? When I be allowed to, you know, move past the mistake I made as a kid? And I just think that you put that so beautifully, is that there will always be people who are uncomfortable with the idea of working with you because of the things that have happened in your past, sir, that is not a testament of who you are in your present. That is a testament of what their morals and
But you
their
know
own
what?
principle structure looks like.
To an extent it is, because it's like, even with him asking like, when will I be forgiven, it kind of shows that like, have you forgiven yourself? Because the forgiveness
That's a
is
good
for
point.
you.
Yeah.
You can't go to every single citizen of the world and be like, hey, did you forgive me? Hey, did you hear about that thing? Did you forgive me for that thing? And at the end of the day, everybody ain't gonna forgive you, and they don't
That's
have
true.
to.
That's true.
Now, mind you, we don't have a heaven and hell to put you in, but the reality is, if you're a public figure, you do something that a lot of people know about, you did it, you don't get to decide for them, one, if they will forgive you or when. You know what I'm saying? And at the same time, it's like, your job is to forgive yourself. If
Yeah.
you've forgiven
And move
yourself and
past it.
you've moved on and you've actually changed, then you shouldn't be worried about, if you've done that healing, you would understand why Ruffles was like, nah, we're cool. And you would just accept that, like, hey, this is something that I'm going to have to deal with for the rest of my
The rest
life.
of my life. Yeah, I agree. I think it's interesting. It is interesting because I also think about someone like Lawrence Fishburne, who's been very vocal about having been domestically violent in a previous relationship, and how once he forgave himself, he was able to move past it. And it's not something that's held over his head again, because it wasn't as public as like a Chris Brown's, but
Right.
it was a different era, different time. But I think that is a perfect parallel, because even with him, he's still vocal about it. He still speaks out against. He still speaks about the work that he had to do to heal from it, and even the continued work that he had to do as he got older and had moved past it, and was what he thought disconnected from that situation, or had grown away from that situation. I think that's wonderful, because even for Chris Brown, that's going to be something that he has to heal within.
He's not done healing.
He's not done healing, and it's understandable.
And even for you to say that Lawrence Fishburne still speaks out about it, it's like he's able to speak on it and say something about it. A lot of people feel like forgiveness means silence. Forgiveness doesn't mean that we're just not going to bring it up, or we're going to act like it didn't happen.
Yeah.
It just means, and to be honest, I feel like the people, a vast majority of people, did forgive you. That's why your music is still so successful.
Why you're still relevant.
You can tour and be relevant and be so successful, because
just you can do everything you want to do.
Majority of people forgave you, and that's why you could tell he's not done doing the work, because he doesn't even understand and see the blessing in the fact that you were able to continue your career after that successfully on a mass global scale.
I still have quite a few issues with Chris Brown. But
and that's my point. And you are allowed to, because you don't owe him anything.
Period.
You know what I'm saying?
I don't owe him nothing.
And there's always, and he needs to understand, there's always going to be people that are going to have, and we ain't even bringing up other stuff that people got issues with. Like, let's keep
more
it a buck.
relevant. Come on now.
Let's keep it a buck.
We're talking about one particular situation from long ago. We ain't even talking about the more relevant recent stuff. So you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
There's other things that people have issues with other than that one thing, and it's like, people have to understand the truth does not mean. It doesn't mean if we forgive somebody for something, even with Monique speaking on what she's speaking on, or Katt Williams said, just because I'm speaking on it doesn't mean I'm bitter and I haven't forgiven you. It's just the truth. And I'm telling the truth. Somebody asked me a question, I answered it, and it was true.
It makes me think back to something that I've said, I know, in previous episodes, and it's like just one of those quotes that I live by. It's like, you're not responsible for somebody else's reaction to your truth. Like, you're not responsible for that. That's not your business. That's their business. They got to work with that truth. But it's your truth. Like, as long as you're living in your truth and walking in your path, it's not your business what somebody else does with your truth. You are responsible for how you convey it. Yes, thank you. You are responsible for that, which is your contribution. So you're responsible for your contribution to it, but we are not responsible for everybody else's experience of our truth. Beautiful.
Or your feelings about the truth.
Or your feelings about it. Come on now. Huh.
Because those
I'm
are
quick
your
to
feelings.
say that now. So yes, I think that it, like, the overarching theme, the moral, if you will, of the story is, at the end of the day, when we see these things and we're hearing these truths, you take what's for you. Yeah. You digest it. You leave what's not. But you also reflect. You reflect when you see things happening around on what that means for you. How are you showing up
What
in
can
that
you
moment?
learn from
What
it?
can you learn from it? Thank you. What can you learn from it? Because every situation, circumstance, whether they're major public things that we see on our big and small screens, or whether they're things that happen in our real life, these are all things that are a reflection somehow of what's going on subconsciously and internally with us. So I think that was beautiful. And you know,
I think we
yeah,
wrapped that up in a bit.
I think we put that in a beautiful little package for you guys. So we want to thank you again so much for tuning into this episode of the 5011 Chronicles. As y'all know, follow us on the socials. We're on the IG. We're on the TikTok.
Click,
Right.
all the
Look, we're on the
buttons, tap
YouTube.
in.
We're in all the places. Find us anywhere that you find podcasts. Also be looking out for Jay's Safe Space. Yeah, come on now. Love it. And also look out for DiDi's Laboratory, which should be dropping this month.
It's going to
Both
be
of those should be dropping
this month. Oh yeah, because this is coming
It's
out
March.
in
Yes,
March.
this
It's
is March.
dropping
Yes,
this month.
this month. Yes. I did just prayerfully drop the first J Safe Space.
Lord
Yeah,
bless
look,
it.
I'm pretty sure I did. But y'all, so y'all engage with us. Find us on our little mini segments. Let us know what y'all think, you know, on this conversation about, you know, right message, wrong messenger, about, is this karma? What's going on here? What is your reflection about what's happening with these people and these situations?
About the truth?
Come on now. And are you somebody who's triggered by the truth?
You be lying?
Now
Are you
that's look, you might have to we all have a little delulu in us. Come on now. But we love y'all. Guilty. Have you seen the guy on TikTok who does the Pookie thing, and he's like, it's the way you act, it's the way you act. Have you seen him yet?
I've been wondering what this means.
Oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to send him to you.
Like, what is this?
I'm gonna have to send him to you because I feel like you and I talked about the whole sassy man thing, and he was the one who said it, and he's like had this whole video where he was like, they're asking me, am I sassy? And he was like, guilty. He's like, but it's the way you act. I'm gonna have to send it to you. It just tickles me. It tickles me.
Sassy become an insult?
It's been an insult for men for a long time. But that is a topic for a whole nother episode. A whole nother episode. We love you guys, and we thank you so much for tuning in to the 5011 Chronicles. And we'll see you next Wednesday. Make you do right.
Period.